All right, I am back from Amsterdam. Um, I finally caved and updated my computer. I'm using the Wi-Fi. I don't know how much uh you've seen my stories and everything. With ever since the 22nd when I got back from America, my computer Wi-Fi has just been it just hasn't worked. And I hope I pray because literally like before updating. Like I couldn't even open Zoom. Like it was like it just wouldn't connect. I was like, okay, I just have to freaking restart and update. Like I hate doing it, but we'll see. But what's happened, the trend is that the internet still kind of works. But what happens is that, and I pray once again that this whole Zoom session, as it always did before I got back from America, I'll be right back. I'm just grabbing a cup. But I pray that there's not these like resets, right? What happens is that I'm talking, blah, 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 saying whatever. And then suddenly out of nowhere, just like Zoom resets and it can be very annoying, very, very much of a momentum kill. So then I started relying on my hotspot. I know you're not here for story time, but I'm just kind of explaining because I couldn't do a reading for you know for a full week when I want all I wanted to do was do reading. Like I had time, I had space. It was before I was leaving for my trip. So I had to just like fill those with live readings, which I can do on my iPad or on WhatsApp. But I prefer these ones to be done on my computer, obviously, because I want to share my I want to share the chart. I want like this is how I do it. This is how I've always done it. This way I can put it on YouTube, so you'll never ever lose the reading. Of course, with initials, no personal information. So far, I don't want to jinx anything. Um, but I did the restart and like Zoom just opened right away. It wasn't like asking me for like the password or anything, which is like it's never done. So I don't know. It's a Dell. I just have like PTSD with Apple products. That's what I always used to have. And like it felt like every time I updated my computer or phone or you know, I have an iPad now, but it's my mom's old one. It's not, yeah, it's not really like something that's super important for my work or anything. But yeah, it just always made it slower. Always like led to complications, and I always had this like conspiracy that these companies to increase profits, like part of the updates were to, and Apple even I think got in trouble for this a while ago, didn't they? For to just like slow them down or just cause make it so you eventually would get frustrated and buy a new one. So let's hope that Dell, the good people of Dell, I don't know if they're good people, but let's just hope that this works, that I don't have some other issue. And let's get to the reading. So where is my clock? And thank you so much for your patience. But yeah, basically, so what happened, I literally had your chart up like probably 12 days ago. That's how crazy this has been. Um, and I was using my hotspot, right? So for every reading, so this has been since the 22nd, but I've had to use my hotspot on my phone, which I have unlimited data, but then it got to a point where when you get to a certain point with the hotspot, um, it just doesn't work as like if it basically like the data slows down and you have to wait for it to replenish. So now I'm using my regular Wi-Fi. It looks exactly like it did before, but I mean it works on my iPad, it works on my TV, it works like everywhere. So why would it not? So I just figured it was a computer problem. So far so good. Okay. So let's go ahead. So I have your name hidden. VC. Think of the basketball player Vince Carter. Um, okay, so let's get down to business. Um, Let me get these things aspects showing. So, what do we have here? My first reading back from Amsterdam, completely replenished. Oh, okay. I just saw this the other day. So we got the nice 10th house with the sun in Gemini, 28 degrees. I also have a 28 degree sun, but in Pisces. And you have midheaven at 11, and then 11:10. Oh, you have that 11:10. Anyway, hold up one quick second. I need to double check something actually before I share the screen. Always gotta double check. Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna just send you a DM right now, just so you know what's going on. Nay. Okay, there you are. Okay, I'm gonna send you a quick voice message. Hey Vanessa, hope you're well. Thank you so much for your patience. It's been the craziest time ever with my Wi-Fi. I'm actually recording your reading as I'm sending this voice message, just to let you know that I'm doing it right now. I just got back from Amsterdam. I have had the worst computer issues ever, which means like I just said in your reading, I was like, I literally had your chart open like 13 days ago. And I just like updated my computer, and so far Zoom's working with my Wi-Fi. So I'm praying to God, even if it doesn't, like it will, like the hot, yeah, it's basically I'm doing it now, and it's just been absolutely crazy. So thank you so much for your patience. I just wanted to tell you that. So yeah, all right, here I go. All right, so now you're at the top of my DM list. Let's just double check, make sure you're here. Yep, you are. Okay. So, all right, so that's looking good. Oh yeah, I need to pop this up into where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? Right here. Okay, very good. Okay, so now we can go to share screen. I'm kind of random with my share screen. I'll pop in and out. You know how it is. So as I said, very strong 10th house Gemini. South Node is in the 7th, like myself, right on the descendant in Pisces. Ooh. So the South Node is like the karmic been there, done that. And the North Node is conjunct Saturn. The amount of those I've had, it's insane lately. Like insane. I did like the follow-up I did last night, she had the same thing. It was also in her first house. I'm like, damn. Um, So yeah, you got the Virgo rising with the Virgo North Node and Saturn, right there. And actually, with this PTSD, I need to like just like test the microphone one more time. Um, Test speaker microphone. Hello, hello, hello. Check, check, check. Ooh, it sounds even better than it used to. That's crazy. Okay, cool. You see how it is right now. Okay, so anyways, so then the moon, the most important part of the chart, is in Taurus, conjunct Chiron. Okay. Big first start, Taurus, Gemini, Virgo. Um, well, the way I do my readings is really intuitive, but I have a system in place as well. So basically, what I see is you have Neptune rules your south node on the IC, and then it's Venus square south node. Okay, gotcha. Let me just double check the C12. Okay, so the South Node is also squaring Neptune. Interesting. So this is very, very interesting. A lot of astrologers would not see this. But I'm a karmic astrologer. So I like to start sometimes from like the sun moon. Sometimes I like to kind of like start from like the very karmic stuff. So right off the bat, I'm like, damn. Okay, well, we got South Node in Pisces on the descendant, which is the 7th house cusp in Placidus. It's basically the part of your chart that has to do with relationships, partnerships, really close one-on-one relationships. Usually, it's like kind of like you know, people think of it as like marriage, like partnership, all that stuff. It can be business partners, all even open enemies. There's lots of different. Well, it's more seventh house. Yeah, descendants kind of like what we look for. It's very relational. So the fact that you have your south node there in Pisces, right, by itself to me is an indication of a karmic tendency to have rose-colored glasses in relationships. In a sense of, you know, like the whole Disney kind of like Prince Charming, like that, the whole myth, you know, like kind of like the tendency to be where there's a little bit of like, I don't want to say codependency, but you know, South Node on the descendant, yeah, it can actually definitely be that. And in Pisces, it's like, you know, when I see this like when it's like from a non-karmic perspective, well, everything is karmic, but you know what I mean? Like if I just see like seventh house Neptune or um anything like that, it's similar, but yours, it's like it's coming from past life. So example, um, meeting someone, which by the way, your relationships will be very, very karmic in this lifetime. So they'll be very based, you know, very faded, all that stuff. And they'll play a huge role, but you're not meant to, like, you've had a lot of lifetimes where you've kind of like let your dreams go and let because it's squaring Neptune and the IC, right? So and then those are in sad. So you've almost like allowed your greatest dreams to kind of like fall back because of different relationships you've had. So, for example, let's just give a random example. Like, okay, so you meet someone, um, you're like, okay, let's get married. Let's say you're like, just the easy example, right? You're really into astrology. You're really into like the esoteric, the occult, whatever, right? But that person, and you're very spiritual, but that person isn't at all. Um, that would indicate someone who would allow who still wouldn't like who needs in this lifetime with Virgo North Node conjunct Saturn to really stand up for themselves, to really learn to be independent, to really learn to not have to rely on someone else. Now, the square in Neptune and the IC is very interesting because I think that this is you know, this could be something that runs in your bloodline, right? You know, there can definitely be some childhood stuff that has to do with this. Especially, yeah, with Venus being opposite the IC, exact, or yeah, like pretty much exact degree. And then Venus opposite with that, you know, Neptune. It all comes down to self-image. So when someone has a poor or a distorted self-image, they may have trouble seeing themselves in a clear way, right? Um, so South Node in Pisces, right? Seventh house, square Neptune. I think that in this lifetime, you're really so you are a naturally mystical, spiritual person, but because of past relationship patterns and cycles, you know, it's like I said, like it's held, they've held you back. It's like that relationship where the guy or the girl, whatever you were, doesn't have those same beliefs as you. And because of that, um, you feel like you can't really open yourself up and move in that direction. And that direction for you is independence. So where does that come from? Well, codependency comes from when we, you know, don't value ourselves enough, right? And that's also with the Venus square opposite Neptune. We can think of it that way as well, right? Where it's like lots of confusion, lots of so when if you're single or if you're married, like it's very important to, you know, you definitely want a very, very deeply spiritually close relationship, but there's that potential for those kind of like people who show themselves as being great at the start, and then once they have you, it's like game over. They completely change, right? Energy vampires. So that's the south node, right? So I don't know if you read my article, are you stuck in your south node? But basically, like, it's not a bad thing. It's just a tendency. But when we have squares to it, that's where, those are known as skip steps, right? So with the Neptune square, it's very interesting because Neptune rules Pisces, so it rules your south node and squares it. So it's like doubling down everything I just said. So yeah, it comes down to like ultimate meaning, like also dreams and ideals, right? So the skip step is it comes from these relationships that have led to you losing meaning, like losing, like kind of like deep despair, disillusionment, that leads like this real loss of life force, right? um Even like dissociation, because you're naturally a very dreamy person, right? Your soul is very dreamy, and it I like the intuition I get is that it's like family stuff, not necessarily from this life, but just in general, and maybe this life it's mimicking it, but where you don't see things realistically. You don't allow yourself to see things realistically, living kind of like a fairy tale, and um, you know you're really trying, Virgo North Node conjunct Saturn, to be your own father, to be your own boss, right? To be that person that can create those very firm boundaries that are like, no, fuck you, I'm not gonna stand for that shit, or not even fuck you, but just like, I'm not gonna stand for that BS. Like I first house North Node, right? North Node is the metaphoric mountain you're trying to climb in this lifetime. Conjunct your ascendant, it's really about like how in this lifetime you're meant to be more selfish, right? And a partnership that will, it's not saying you're meant to be single. It's more about like not going into that cycle, right? So more about the Neptune skip step, so a lot of times it's like unresolved dreams. And in this life, there's a big need to explore those. So it's, with Pisces, Virgo, it's like, how can you take your ideals, your dreams, and you'd be like a naturally like really good like therapist, by the way, or like someone who like healer, right? But or someone who works with couples, or just who works one-on-one business partners, that kind of stuff. But and also with your midheaven in Gemini with Venus there, that's really favorable for career. 10th house Sun in Gemini, very favorable, very favorable for career, especially since it's unaspected your Sun. Goddamn. So like you're definitely a real powerhouse in that area, and that's because God wanted you to have an energy in this lifetime where you um could really find yourself. And then having that moon in Taurus is giving you that ultimate stability. But there could be like some deep wounding around the mother. But with that said, your node's also trine the moon. So that's usually like I have that also. And I have a really, really good relationship with my mother. But two things can also be true at the same time, right? There can be like a really strong karmic relationship, but then it is a conjunction, so it could be that there's deep healing that you guys kind of mimic in each other, right? It's not square in opposition. Or it could just be that there was at some point some deep pain that you took on from her, right? So it might not even be like directed towards you. It could be like a cycle where she's kind of like um mimicking you in that type of way. But that's not anything I would say as a guess. That's just a potential, right? So when we look at the evolutionary axis, right, that illustrates the nature of these unfulfilled dreams and aspirations, right? Um, so basically that axis is seventh first and Pisces Virgo. So seventh first is, like I just said, moving from Libra to Aries, from codependency, which is the extreme of Libra. I can't live, I can't do anything without relationship, blah blah blah. To the extreme of Aries, which is like, I'm not gonna like give anything, I'm not gonna make any compromises. Like, it's my way or the highway. Now, I'm not saying lean completely towards that Aries one, but definitely understand the importance of, for you, like, for example, let's say you're headed in a really strong direction, your vibe is high, and then you meet someone. So it's really important when if you're single, that is, you're born 79, so, you know, you could be married, um, but who knows? I never know. But yeah, it's very important that, you have, like, you take a lot of time, a lot, and are very honest with yourself. And where does that honesty come from? Where does that ability to see? Well, it can come from external, like having like a really solid friend who just tells you how it is, you know, or it can come from deep exploration of the self, which is what you're really meant to be doing. So, um, yeah, and then in Pisces to Virgo is moving from being stuck in your dreams, stuck in like, oh, I could do this, I could do that, like, oh, like seeing like the potential of someone as opposed to like who they really are, and just being, okay, yeah, but he's gonna change, that kind of energy, right? To Virgo, which is about analysis, right? Which is about, it's more neutral, it's more cognitive, in the sense of like, these are the facts, and I'm gonna analyze them based on these physical facts, while still, obviously feeling my emotions, but you get what I'm saying. So, yeah, so there's lots of discrimination that's required, because the skip step involves a struggle to clarify the difference between personal fantasy and objective reality. So that's a big one, right? Um, what is some fantasy, something that you took on earlier, which is Pisces, like literally, like, people, it's crazy, like how, like, like a movie someone saw, or like a very like unconscious message someone received when they were like 6 or 7 can shape their entire life. So the Virgo North Node's asking you to like really sit down and write a list of like, what are my self-limiting beliefs? Like, what steps do I need to take? Right. And also, Virgo is all in Pisces is all about service, and you're someone who also, you can look at this differently, who has been so of service to humanity that, in a sense, it's kind of held you back from your own individual dreams, creative ideals, right? So yeah. So a lot of times people have this, they can have like kind of like a spiritual crisis at some point, which ultimately leads to a deep spiritual transformation. Um, but like a lot of times also people who have this, there's that despair, and that kind of like that feeling of loss of their spiritual way, kind of like meaningless cycles, right? Of despair. Some people, can try to compensate through escapism, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or just not, like, that's the low energy of Pisces, right? It's where you refuse to look at reality. I'm not saying you, I'm saying the generalization. Um, Also, in rare cases, this could be due to someone who's like experienced some kind of psychic attack, um, whether it's from like an astral source. Now, with that said, I do see Black Moon Lilith in your 12th house. So energy protection will be very important for you. But you also have the beautiful, I have it here too, Jupiter in the 12th house, which offers you that protection. So I would say that finding Virgo ways, right? So Virgo is your daily routine, healthy, organized on every spiritual, emotional, physical, all those fronts. And having a daily routine that really like feeds you spiritually. And I'll get into the Gemini stuff in a sec. Um, so yeah, like there's a big need to kind of go back into the past and try to figure out what, what like or look at your life and try to think of like, okay, what does that mean? So then besides that, well, guess what other planets square your node? Well, of course, it's conjunct the descendant. So, well, not of course. Yeah, it squares your midheaven. And Venus. So, so when it squares your midheaven, that is basically saying how your dharma, right? I don't want to call it career, but your dharma, what you're meant to do on a physical level in this lifetime, which your sun, right? You see your sun right here in the 10th house. So that means that a big part of your life purpose is your, like I said, I don't like to call it career, but what you're here to do for like the big picture for the world, for the public, for you know, and for some people it literally means spirituality. It's not just like this corporate America entrepreneurship, but like I do think you're someone who is really, really here to through that to see yourself more clear. Um, so that would basically just indicate how these relationships have gotten in the way of that in past lives. So with Venus, that is once again relating to how you see yourself, like issues with how you see yourself and self-love. And then therefore how you relate to others and let maybe other people that shouldn't be let in. So it goes really, really deep, right? And it's also opposite Saturn. So you know, I'll get into that in a sec. But basically it can just be it can really be like loss of identity through just exhaustion of being someone that or like trying to be someone that you're not, um not seeing reality, um like having like a very projected view of reality, right? um like not seeing the true reality of others, due to so with the Pisces South Node, right? People can project on you a lot, right? And like the whole thing about like don't let other people's opinions of you define you. That can be something that can very much have happened or continue to happen. um so that's really important. And sometimes there's that same um what I just call it, projection onto partners, even friends. And also it can refer to a life-threatening situation, like lots of anxiety. My cat keeps ringing his ball to play fetch. So making it really hard for you to see and understand your own needs and your own and what you really, really value, which yeah. um So it really is important, and this is like the fucking massive one for you. You need to learn to be comfortable and happy alone, right? Um, Not that you're gonna you could be married, happily married right now, but people who have this sometimes fail to love and accept themselves, and then they get into partnerships and it's just fucked, you know? So it's only by being totally cool with like, if I'm alone, I'm alone. And that even goes within your relationships. Like let's say you're married right now. Um, you have to look at that relationship and say, okay, in what way is this helping me? Right? In what way is this um helping my individualization? You know what I mean? In what way is it taken away from it? Because you're here to be a boss, you know. Saturn on the North Node in Virgo, you're here to be a boss. And what I mean by boss is I mean someone who is in charge of their own destiny, who creates their own boundaries, who's very firm with them, who has a set of values that they subscribe to, that they are not like it's really about seeing, like loving yourself, seeing yourself more clearly, right? Because until that happens, you're not going to be able to truly have, that clear footing of yourself, right? That clear understanding, that full clear understanding of you. Now, moving forward, so that's some deep karmic stuff. So Saturn opposes it. Um, Saturn opposing the South Node to me would indicate that there's, some force which totally goes with what we're saying, whether it was, past life relationships, whether it's past life father figure, some patriarchal kind of energy, whether even society, as a whole, like the way, like the conditioning that pushed you away from that. But I see it like more relational. Um, so this could also have to do with karma with, your father in this life, which, the sun's unaspected, which is interesting. There's no hard aspects to the sun. So I'm not going to make that as a prediction. I'm just going to say as a possibility. But, that to have the North Node, with the ascendant, see if it says anything. No, of course not. But basically, it's really just, I mean, it's very obvious. It's just like you are here to fully lean into that Virgo ascendant, self accountability, consistency, reliability, service, spirituality, right? But like in a more practical way where you're taking all these past life dreams and talents that you've had that maybe were hidden, and you're actually applying them to your life. And that's what the Saturn's doing, is that when the return came, it probably opened a lot for you, especially because it returned from the 12th to the 1st, where Saturn is. But until that point, you probably felt very restrained in your self-expression. Where's your Chiron? Yeah, in Taurus, so conjunct the moon, yeah, as I said before. So I'll go back to face cam for a little bit. I think you can still see me through a little square. I can't believe the Zoom is working. Oh my God. If this continues, I'm gonna throw a party. It's my birthday. This is my birthday present from God. I did pray like so much, like as my computer was like loading. I was like literally like, please God, like please, I need this. I can't deal with this anymore. I don't have time to go in the city and like fix this. Like I don't even know if there's someone who would be able to do it. They'd have to think. So please, 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 please. Okay, so yeah. So you get this massive importance, right? Of boundaries and of just being okay with being you. So the Virgo ascendant person, they can be critical, but just know that is, that using like the balance between intuition and cognition is very important for you. Logic and intuition would be a better way of saying it. And to not rush into things. Now I see Uranus is trying the nodes. Um, as is Mercury. So you have a T square, one can call it that, with the nodes. You can call it a T square, I don't know. But Mercury trine Uranus on its own is very, very ingenious, right? It's kind of like an intelligence, like very, very original way of thinking and communicating, very ahead of your time, and having like ideas and opinions and interests, which might have deviated and been different from the people you grew up around and whatnot, right? You might be a masterful writer, a masterful communicator, but it might be more internal. But this is the thing: you're a Gemini, and your Venus is on your midheaven, which means that you're an art. You could be a professional artist. Like when I've seen a lot of artists that have that, and if it's not professional artists, it's someone who has a lot of fortune when it comes to their career, right? They like to, and in Gemini, people midheaven Geminis, they often change careers throughout their life. So like they could have two at one. They could have like the money maker, and then they could have the right, because Gemini is so just like multifaceted and can do so many things. But the key with Gemini, right, is to be the high vibe where you're not just trying this, trying this, trying this, trying this, and giving up too early. Like yeah, you're meant to try a lot of things. You're meant to just experience a lot in life. But some Geminis can be a little bit too frazzled and get stuck on details too much, right? Or non details, get stuck in a sense where they're not get stuck by trying too many things at once and giving up on things too early before they become masters of them. So it's like, how can you find those, few things that you really, really love and just go full in on them, right? But you'll be someone who needs intellectual stimulation in general, especially in your dharma slash job slash career, right? Now, spirituality is big for you. As I said before, Uranus, I didn't really say this, but Uranus trining Mercury, that's on my list of like genius aspects, right? So you can have a very unconventional way of thinking, but you can receive downloads. So when you're able to really ground yourself through meditation or whatever it is, you can receive these downloads. And that's also your Pisces South node. So it's really important for you when we think of the idea of energetic space, like to feel into your energetic space. How is your apartment or your house? You know, how does it reflect? Like, does it feel open? Right? You have fourth house Sagittarius, so I imagine that you would like very open spaces. I imagine that you would be someone who likes to learn and to become very spiritual within your own home environment, right? Now, and yeah, Jupiter ruling that fourth house in the 12th is just doubling down that. It's like I could definitely see you being the kind of person that has like an altar at their home and does lots of like, you know, spiritual learning, spiritual practices within their own house. With that said, um, back to the Gemini, and we have to, talk about the moon, obviously. And you also have Mars and Taurus too, and Juno. Um, you know, having your sun and your moon in back-to-back houses is not a bad thing. Some people will say it is, but I believe that it's just part of the zodiacal story. So they're very different energies, Taurus and Gemini, but not necessarily bad. So the Taurus moon, right? The moon is your emotional need. It is, what makes you you, what like how you feel comfortable within yourself. So I have an itch here. So basically, Taurus, the moon is exalted in Taurus, meaning that people of Taurus moons generally are able to meet their emotional needs and be quite grounded. But sometimes they prefer the more safe route in life, which isn't bad because you're a Gemini. So the Gemini can go crazy, 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 but then you'll have that Taurus moon to kind of pull you back in. So it's actually very dynamic and very, very strong. And your moon trines your ascendant. So if I could explain to you how important that is, right? And like I said, your moon trines your north node. So practicality, slowing down, right? That balance between fast-paced Gemini and slow Taurus, that's super important, right? Because there'll be, you could have these two parts of you where, but like, yeah, one of them is like very much about just trying so many different things, but then the other part always wants to come back to the self, right? So meditation, super important because that's really where, like meditation, anything grounding, working with earth, hiking, gardening, these types of things, connecting you to Gaia, are so important. Um, Now, yeah. So I definitely think Venus on the midheaven is very, very good for just luck and career, and it's you want to be in a very beautiful environment. Um, and yeah, just like very, very, very harmonious professional relationships, creating beauty in your career. It can also create lots of perfectionism in the career. Um, but overall, like, so let's say you're someone who is like, I'm gonna start a social media. you know, like you want to be like do something like I did, you would have a great advantage because you would have this placement of Venus on your midheaven. Midheaven is how people see you. So ooh, your Venus is on one of the, if not the best star, tied for the best star, Regulus and Aldebaran. Your Venus is on Aldebaran. So that is very good for like one of the most best placements you can fucking have. Like goddamn. And to have the midheaven there too is crazy. Like, you know, that's wealth, that's luck, that's um you know, that is Aldebaran is an amazing star. Amazing. Especially with Venus on there, right? Super good for intelligence, for honor, um, and just creativity and having this, you know, like I think literature for you, like anything like regarding communications, like even like poetry, you know, like just immense music, art, immense creative abilities, right? It's also really good for health and really good for marriage. Um, so and then to have it, how far is it from your midheaven? 33 and yeah. I mean, it's just in range of your midheaven too. So that is massive. I mean, it's not gonna be as strong, but that gives great fortune and usually really, really good like energy with other women and good for marriage, good for occupations that are of the, you know, Mars nature. So it could be great for business, great for making money, you know, anything like speculation, anything like that, right? But it does give fortune, and a very illustrious, splendid life. And this is literally not me sugarcoating shit. This is amazing. It's boss energy, but like being able to be a boss in a way that's not like boom, like you could have employees if you do own a company or something like that that respect you and love you, you know, and want to work hard for you. Even if you were doing something like owning like a flower business or like, you know, something that like combines that beauty of Venus, right? Or a healing, anything healing. Um, so yeah, it's good for lots of famous people have that. Especially having, you know, Venus and midheaven is crazy. But the midheaven, like I said, is further away. Like and usually it will make you very beautiful, like your aura. So if you were like in my position on social media, if I wish I had Venus on the midheaven. I was telling my client yesterday who had that, like, because you would be seen in this very like illustrious kind of like like charming way, right? So it's very good for popularity as well. Um, and someone who's busy with many activities. Um, you know, usually they grow up in rich families, usually, or like that's not like an issue for them usually. But here's the thing that's super interesting is that your Pluto is in the second house. So Pluto in the second house um is basically like it can make someone obsessed with their work, right? Um and they can have past life memories of being stuck on survival mode. So even if they're rich, even if they're super successful, they have to not be so perfectionist because I know people who have this a lot. And the thing I see is that like, okay, so my uncle, for example, right? I don't even have to know his chart to know he has this. Um, he does for sure, which would make him a what would that make him? I don't know what years. What's this Pluto? I can't think. It would be Virgo. So the ascendant would be Cancer, which makes so much sense. He's such a Cancer rising. Yeah. Christian, my uncle. So Christian grew up poor, right? Um, with my dad, obviously. And in his life, he still is so afraid to spend money, even though he has literally with his bare hands taken like, I don't even know if it's anywhere from 10 to 20 houses that were just fucking wrecks that he bought for nothing, and just completely rebuilt them and turned them into just like beautiful, livable, like not just livable, just like just homes, complete homes. But then like you'll go to his house and he won't spend shit, right? My grandpa's another example, which, I can't confirm that I don't know his birth time, but he exhibits this. I think that's going crazy. My grandpa grew up poor, extremely successful, right? He gave his life to his business, to working his ass off. But he's like, now he has Alzheimer's. But like before he had Alzheimer's, he was like, it was like the biggest thing in the world. Like, the guy's living in freaking Beverly Hills. But he still hasn't like, bought a new home for forever. Like he had the same BMWs for so long when he could have bought anything he wanted. Um, Buying my mom, who's a Virgo already, had to like, it was like this big like thing for him to buy these two twin beds for when we come. Because they were like the beds in there were like literally like so horrible, like impossible to sleep on. Like, so those are examples, right? So when you have life spent on survival mode, um, you could be super successful, but still feel as though it's never enough. So the big thing there is to find yourself, find your real power, find that material wealth. You're like, to understand, to feel into that energy, right? And to really strengthen your relationship with God, and to know that you'll have what you're meant to have, and that if you work hard, but understand that life is not just about working. Because I'm talking about two different people here who have not understood. Someone close to me said, he's a funny guy. He said, he's very successful. He said, I spend, I forget what percent he said, like 70% of, or 60%, I forget, of my money. Like, I think he's hyperbolizing. Like, I think it was 50-50. 50% of my money, like, I'm going to live for the next 40 years. 50% of money, like, I'm going to live for the next 40 days. And that's a bit crazy. But like, it's a good example, right? You only have the now. We could all pass tomorrow, you know? So just want to throw that in there. More about Aldebaran Venus. Let's see if I can think of anything more. So yeah, just great artistic achievements and talent, to create beauty in any kind of way that relates to your career. And if you do not have any artistic gift, then you may be able to convert this Venusian beauty in others and see the best in others, and really be an appreciator of the arts, right? Um, but you also have to watch out for being overly materialistic. And that's another thing with second house Pluto is that can happen as well. It's complicated, right? Um, so yeah. Um, Very important to involve any career that involves conflict in the workplace, like a very strenuous workplace. Because you'd probably like really feel that need to escape, like you need like a very calm work environment. So yeah, like even like working at home potentially. But that's not necessarily what it is. Geminis like to get out there and be around people, right? Networkers naturally. But yeah, learning self-soothing techniques is very important. And having that work-life balance, like having those passions that can alleviate some of that having that strong work-life balance is really important, right? But really like having Venus on the midheaven, it's like, yeah, there's the whole artistic thing, but you can excel in any profession you're attracted to, right? Um, You know, it could be beauty, fashion, graphic design, you know, hospitality, you know, in Gemini. So it's like anything, you know, anything related to communicating in any way, which is so many jobs, right? So yeah, it's really endless. So yeah, then I want to speak about philosophy, right? Because this is so important for you. Actually, before that, actually, let's talk about the Venus opposite Neptune, and it also squares Saturn. So this is like a big thing for you, self-love. I imagine that it's been a lifelong journey to find it. Um, but what happens when Venus is opposite Neptune, which is like another clue of this whole big thing I'm finding with you with the karmic, um, is that it's a lack of discernment in relationships, right? As I said before, the web of fantasies, romantic illusions, um, being deceived in close relationships. So yeah, it's really about finding that like that creative outlet for your imagination and partnerships that yes are spiritual, but that stand the test of time. So then this is what's very interesting is that I hope you didn't get married before your Saturn return because you have Venus square Saturn. Now it wouldn't be detrimental like if you have if you had Saturn the seventh, but um it would be better. You would be someone who'd be better to and but by the way, I haven't looked at any photos. You have no idea what you look like nothing. Um, but you know, it's better for someone with this to really work on themselves before. Like I would read you the same way if you're 18, 19, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50, whatever, right? Um, but like because when you have Venus square Saturn, that creates lots of issues with self-love. Um, and being assertive in your relationships, which you see the theme here. And it can also be lots of fear of commitment. Or excuse me, not commitment. Why I say commitment? What I meant vulnerability and confrontation, shying away from like emotional disputes, right? And that a lot of times comes from like the relationship with your parents. Um, so yeah, just like learning how to relate to people is so important, and it gets better after the Saturn return. Um, and the beautiful thing of this is that when it's integrated, Venus and Saturn is Saturn's the glue, Venus is the relationship. So it's someone who has to work really, really hard to find that self-love, whether it's through therapy, whatever it's through, right? Going in their path, you have Neptune on your IC. I'll talk about that in a sec. But once you find that, you have this real ability to have like very, very long standing relationships. Now, I see Venus, right? That is relating to, so people who have that, they often either like have like a disillusionment of their childhood. So like they might like, let's say they had like a fucked up childhood, they might see it in a way that was more positive than it was, or the opposite, right? So and also it clouds the memories of childhood. So Venus, or Neptune on the IC, with all your karmic stuff with Neptune, there's a big can you throw the ball for him? There's a big need to really like to be very honest about not just your past this life because it's squaring the nodes, your karmic path. When we talk live, remind me to connect you to someone, but I don't talk about that here. Just I'll know what I was talking about. That can help you get even further with that. So that's very interesting stuff. I see Neptune. I've talked to obviously many clients with that, and you know, I've heard everything from having a father who they idealized and made excuses for, but really was like an alcoholic, you know? And I've seen a lot of displacement there where the anger is on the mother or vice versa, right? On the wrong parent. Or just overall like not remembering shit from your childhood. And because of that, um, let's say you had like trauma, like a trauma or mini traumas in your childhood, right? The Neptune IC person might it could be a defense mechanism, or it could just be the energy of them simply just blocking that stuff out, right? So, yeah, really important for you to like, I don't know if you ever done past life regressions. I don't know. I don't know anyone. Well, actually, my 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 best friend Patsy does those, but I don't know if she's practicing right now. But actually, no. The person I'm gonna connect you to can help you with this. You have to ask her specific questions. You have to remind me that I'll forget. So, yeah, really, really important there. So your chart's like the classic chart of a healer because you have Venus with Chiron, right? Or Moon with Chiron, excuse me. And it's also Moon opposite Uranus. So not only are you a healer with hidden gifts, super empathetic. Usually people with that, they suffered from some kind of rejection from a lot, usually it's the mother, right? Or whatever, usually it's the mother, the moon, but whatever parent was like, the less like the less active one, right? The traditionally feminine one, which usually in the past was the father was the sun, the mom was the moon. Well, these days it's different. In my chart, for example, my sun is most certainly my mom. My moon is most certainly my dad. My moon Sag, my dad's a Sag rising. My mom is a Virgo with Mars and Pisces, and my son's Pisces. And it just makes perfect sense. And she was more active in my life, like in terms, like they both were, but like my mom was more, you know what I mean? So, um, yeah. So basically, it's difficult, but it makes you really good at looking after loved ones and being a healer. But you need to like make sure that you're not doing that at the expense of yourself. So it's all about like learning to nurture yourself, right? Which goes back to your first house North Node in Virgo, right? Putting yourself not above everyone. Like you're still here, you're still a healer, you're still an empath, all that stuff. But like you can only help someone as much as you can help yourself. Like, perfect example, when I wake up feeling shitty, how the fuck am I going to be able to be there for someone to give my best vibe? But if I go on my run with my trance music, boom, there it is, you know? Like everything opens up. So it's about it's not in the end, it's not selfish. It's just purely it's purely understanding that you need to be at your highest vibe to be able to be there for others in the best way possible. So then moon opposite Uranus. And actually just Taurus for a little bit. Ninth house Taurus. So ninth house is the house of Sagittarius. It's about your beliefs. So I believe that the Chiron there, maybe you had very different. So I'm seeing like this Uranus energy in your chart. So maybe you had very different beliefs than your family of origin, which could have caused some rejection, feelings of rejection. Maybe you like really into astrology when you were younger, or just different things, and you felt rejected for your beliefs. But at the same time, you're very rebellious, you know. Um, And then with Chiron and Taurus, there's a crisis of values, which goes back to the whole self-worth thing. So that's like a deep need. Lots of healers I come across, have that Taurus Chiron, right? Getting within your own body, things like yoga are super, super big. But really that deep emotional healing the karma with your mom, but like the karma with your mom, trying your notes. So I'm very curious to hear the follow up. You'll have to remind me of all this stuff, by the way. I'll forget every single part of it. All the connections I'm making. So you have to like take notes, write this down, use that Virgo energy. Probably watch it a few times and really like make the advance because I'm making very, very advanced connections right now. And that's because I had the momentum in the chart. So the best follow-up sessions, which by the way, you should 1000% add the current astrology to that. Nearly everyone does, and every single person's ever done it has been extremely satisfied. It's called current astrology / spiritual alignment. So instead of having just the 1 hour live follow up, which we're going to have regardless, We add 2, sometimes a little more to that. I go over all your current transits, your solar return, everything, progressions, everything that has to do with current astrology, plus spiritual alignment, right? It goes deeper. It's like the current chapter and how it combines with the now. So, yeah. I missed the kombucha. Ooh. Um, gingery. But anyways, so yeah, like moon in the ninth, right? You are your beliefs, would probably be up and down, like fluctuating, but you have a deep emotional need to to lift your mind above the mundane world. And to really dive into deep philosophy, right? Very inventive mind. Um, like you really love escaping everyday life, um, and finding truth. So you have an emotional need for truth, and that also comes with traveling and finding different cultures, right? Um, being able to escape your responsibilities, and what when you're traveling physically or metaphorically, but physically, like with different cultures, is amazing. But you're also happy to kind of like, yeah, so ninth house moon people like can sell down in foreign countries, right? But in Taurus, a lot of times Taurus moons like to kind of stay where they're from, so it can go either way. But yeah, so Taurus moons, there is that need for stability, um, and sometimes for like they can not take enough risks. But you're a Gemini, so it actually, I think it plays out really well. Mm. Also, this goes really well with your North Node. It trines your North Node, meaning that Taurus and Virgo are both Earth signs. So, um, it basically, it's really just kind of like, it's like it adds that kind of that whole thing about boundaries I was talking about. It adds to that. So that's beautiful. And it'll make you more practical, very, very like in relationships, like very like a need for consistency, and you have Juno there too. So your ideal partner would be someone maybe from a different culture, maybe not, but someone who is expansive, but who's very grounded in themselves, right? Very consistent, not someone who's wishy-washy. And of course, someone who gives you that freedom. Very important. That freedom to be you. So then Mars and Taurus, the amount of successful people I know that have that, and it's an aspect in Mars, right? Actually, I'll talk about that after. I'll talk about the moon opposite Uranus. So moon opposite Uranus, you know, it can create someone who actually does move around a lot. Maybe when they're younger, moved around a lot, like geographically. But it can make like someone feel like their emotions are all over the place. So there's a big need to learn to ground themselves. Um, and a lot of times it comes from the perception of the mother. So it can create like kind of very back and forth changeable emotions, right? And Gemini is a nervous sign. So and it rules the hands. So like playing the guitar, or even not to an extreme, like something like video games, something that involves your hands, writing, right? Like this is like the most amazing thing for you, right? Um, especially if you have emotional or anxious issues. But most Taurus moons, the beauty of it is that, um, you know, even though it's opposite Uranus, they do tend to wake up each day and feel relatively, even though you're Gemini, relatively calm than themselves, right? Um, so Yeah. But it's also just like that seesaw between like intellect and emotions, you know? So it's really about learning to trust kind of yourself and your feelings and yeah, that whole like kind of what I talked about before, like really balancing that intuition, that gut with that kind of more analytical, no, not analytical Virgo, yes, but also like that emotional, like which also goes with the gut, right? Like so kind of combining intuition with gut, but not allowing yourself to fool yourself because you do have that tendency. Um, so okay, so Mars, right? Let me see here. And then you have Moon trine Saturn. I'll add that as my it's another one. Moon aspects are super important. Um, that is really important. That would really, really help after your Saturn return. But that is good for self-confidence. It's good for building firm foundations in your life and achieving ambitions, right? So it's the fact that your moon's there, so it can make one very, very good at creating like a solid foundation in their life and a firm footing and earning like respect of people around them, being an organized person, right? So it's very actually good for your north node, for that north node journey. You're not trying to be someone who has like their life just kind of just like I don't know the word, just like all over the place, you know? You want to move away from that. With that said, you are a Gemini sun and Venus in midheaven. So it's the 10th house. So that area of life, Dharma slash career, is where you're meant to shine. Um, and you know, with Aldebaran on your Venus, like I said, you could be a star, you could be someone who's uh, famous slash just shines bright in. But it's about trying things, right? That's another thing with Chiron is that sometimes Moon Chiron like it makes in Moon in Taurus it makes someone like not trust themselves enough to try different things. But you might have this amazing talent that you've never tried, and that's why part of the reason that probably you're Gemini is to go out and try different shit, and like eventually you'll find a few or one or two or three or maybe more. Sometimes some people just love having a lots of things they're interested in, you know. Um, and yeah, like I said, you know, Uranus is in your chart, so you would have been very rebellious when it comes to your philosophies and your ideas. So anyone that tried to shove anything down your throat, like that's not working for you, and that could have led to conflict with, you know, even if your mother was someone that you or I don't know, yeah, someone that you love or loved. I don't know. I can never know if someone's mother is still alive. Tremendously, there could still be like something where it's like there's great love, but then there's this one, she's a lot more traditional minded or something like that, you know, and wants that safety for you. So yeah. Um, but like another sign of a genius is Uranus in the third house. Just quick, original thinker, you know, into unusual subjects. Um, you know, like approaches things in a very unique, individualized way, which is what you're meant to do. Um, so that's important stuff. Let me see here real quick. Pull up. So yeah, another thing with the Neptune there is it's the born dreamer, you know. And for you, it's about taking those dreams, like I said many times, and there could be a level of like withdrawing from society, and feeling misunderstood. Um, but you really want to indulge in like imaginative pastimes within your home. Um, But like with the Neptune and IC, like I said, you might have to face different family karmic skeletons. before reaching this ideal scenario. And this opposes your Aldebaran midheaven. So if you haven't done that work yet, it will limit that success, right? And trust me, I have Pluto in the IC opposite my midheaven. So it's like, I understand very clearly that until I really, really dug into my karmic, and I also have it square my node. So it's like, until I really dug into my karmic like past, you know, and I still don't know or want to know everything that happened, because my shit is fucking way more fucked than yours. Pluto's way more bloody and murdery and all that stuff. But just to be able to understand that a lot of the trauma comes from past lives and has been mimicked in some way in this life is so healing. So yeah, I talked about like the okay, one other thing is that the family members might not be aware of the skeletons, but you are the one who has to face that reality. So it's so crazy how many of my clients are like such strong people who are the ones who are meant to like break this crazy like generational cycle, right? It's insane. And I see it so much. Um, and with everything I'm seeing, I'm believing that's you. More on that. Yeah, I talked about so I talked about the kind of like over idealization or under just not seeing the childhood clearly. So like really like looking back on it, maybe using your writing skills to like creatively find like get into that if you haven't already, deeper and deeper. A lot of times with this also there can be like absence of the father, whether it's an illness, just working a lot. And also a lot of times with this, the grandmother had an important influence on your early childhood, right? So yeah, like recreating like this ideal home that you might hold in your head, and searching for that security as an adult, which probably was absent as a child, right? But yeah, there can be some sense of like a loss or loss around the childhood, which can make the person not really want to go back into it. But if I say going back into it is where all the power is, and the fear is more powerful than fear itself. There you are. Being close to water is super important for you. It's very, very healing for you to like take baths, being close to water. Or just like like I said, like in big wide open spaces. So yeah. And once again, like kind of like how your spiritual, creative, artistic journey is reflected in your career dharma. Very interesting how you see how this all connects. So Mercury in the 11th, in Cancer, you are someone who actually no, Mars in Taurus. That is the person who slowly but steady wins the race. And it's unaspected, so there's nothing bothering you, no bullshit in your way. You get to where you need to get. And in the 9th house, Taurus, you seek adventure through travel, also study, also spirituality. Really trying to really explore the higher meaning of life. Taurus, Mars people, they have strong personal desires. They like touch, all that stuff. They can follow like a quite reliable course of action, and be very, very stubborn if they're opposed. So it's very important with Taurus in your chart to understand the balance between the stubbornness that can have, and then the Gemini part, which is very good at like listening to other people and communicating and networking and all that. So balancing those two out is important. but not giving like too much to one and not enough to the other. So a big part of you is about like learning, being grounded, like really being your own boss, your own person. And the other part is about kind of similar, but just like more of a like devoting that to your career slash dharma in a very kind of explorative, fun, creative way. Okay, so then Mercury in the 11th, which I think is unaspected to, no, it trends, yeah, no, besides, no, it squares Pluto. Okay, so that's a fucking hard one. Okay, Mercury square Pluto, it can make someone suffer from obsessive thoughts. And um like it can make like Mercury is your mind, it's your communication. So when it's squared by Pluto, which is like, you know, your inner darkness, which is in the second house, like I said, you know, really like that's the one that was about like the survival instinct from the karmic perspective. But from another perspective, it can make someone just like always go through, you know, like with money, like, and if they're so fixated on money and possessions, they go through big upheavals in their life, ups and downs. So it's about like exploring the link between the changing like inner values and external can't think of the word, results. And when you really give yourself to your spirituality, you'll see that you're taken care of by God. Well, which you are anyways, but that's kind of the lesson there. And yeah. So Mercury squaring that, it can create all kinds of kind of like difficulty with like self-talk, um, self-hatred. But it does also give a very deep probing mind and really, really good street smarts, right? So another example of you being very, very smart, but a very complex nature. Like you view the world like or I guess your worldview often, people with this often comes or is influenced by intense situations, usually early in life, right? Like crises, family stuff, where they see the darker side of humanity. Um, and it can lead to like very intense and mentally challenging interactions with other people and relationships. Like it can make someone very defensive, um, defending their position. So yeah, basically, and a lot of people with this, they can like associate, you know, their identity with their ideas and opinions and go to any link to defend them. So, but they're also someone who just will research the shit out of something they're really interested in, you know? Um, so I think the key there is to loosen up in that way and to, because as a Gemini, you'll be very good at communicating, right? But to really, it's about learning to, it's the whole mantra of like, you know, like I know nothing. I wake up each day and I know nothing, right? But you still know a lot. But like kind of like Socratic questioning is a great method. Like someone disagrees with you, ask them. That's what I did. I got a comment. I get comments very rarely. They're very stupid because like no one can, like, who the fuck is gonna beat me in a debate about astrology? Like, let's be real. Like on a post where there's like hundreds of comments, not hundreds, okay, let's call it like 150 comments. Every single one's positive, and then there's one person who just says no. Like, and then I'm just like the questioning is like, instead of being like "fuck you," which I never do, it's like, okay, interesting. I'm curious why you feel that way. No answer. No answer. No answer. Put them on the hot seat, you know, and make them kind of teach you and be open, be happy, have a calm demeanor. Like, I'm curious why you feel this way. And you don't even have to say anything, because by them putting them in the hot seat, what can happen with Mercury and Pluto is that there can be lots of that intensity and darkness that comes out. You're like, fuck, where did that come from? Especially in arguments. It can be very dictatorial, and sometimes using underhanded tactics to aggravate the opposition. So, yeah, over time, usually this does evolve into a very way more diplomatic style, leading to less mental stress, and also with that process, it allows that transformation of your thoughts and ideas. So, yeah, cool stuff, right? Cool stuff. Which relates kind of to Black Moon Lilith in Leo, because that can be a little bit like your lowest vibe being a little bit like not willing to listen, like too much kind of like not like too much like talking, not enough taking it in, right? Not saying that you have that. Or thinking that other people are not doing enough for you and you're doing too much for them, which with the rest of your chart maybe you are, but like yeah, like Leo is very honest. So yeah, it's about really acknowledging your need to shine, but not doing that in a way that gets in the way of other people. Like you know what I mean? Like you're really meant to shine and meant to find that independence and individuality in this lifetime. So yeah, just really showing gratitude to people, but I don't think that that's something that would be difficult for you. I think 12th house Black Moon, it's like the tendency for escapism at your lowest vibe, right? It's not a plan, it's just your potential lowest. And yeah, just sometimes getting lost in like the imaginary world and not being able to, like, yeah, not really being able, sometimes like the Gemini, like with that can like not like concentrate very well on what other people are saying, but it does trine your sun, exact degree, right? So that's some witchy energy. And you have Jupiter there, right? So Jupiter in 12th house is think of it like a flashlight, spiritual protection, first of all, duh. But like it's literally like you have this amazing understanding of the esoteric and of the kind of zeitgeist and like the underlying energy of what's happening in the world. So you will be protected spiritually, right? So that's very important. But the Lilith there can really make it so you have to do things like to like it's kind of like on one side you're protected, on one side you're not, you know. So you do have to do things that are like protecting your energy, because in Placidus, the Jupiter would be in the 11th house, which would be more about like just being very popular, which, you know, Mercury, they're already in part of fortune. They're already, you know, the Mercury in 11th house in Cancer, it just makes like the communication with your family super important. And a very like, you know, even though it's square Pluto, you know, just being very emotional in the way you communicate, right? And the way you think. So like it can make someone quite emotionally led. So you add that to everything I said. In the 11th house, it's about really sharing your kind of your communicating with your friends is super important to you, right? And really like working together with them. You know, Cancer ruling your 11th house, your friends can be your family, you know, your tribe. And working together with them to create a better world, or to, you know, have like common beliefs that you lead the world towards, or that you lead yourself, like that kind of like are like big things in your life, right? Because your chart ruler is Mercury as a Virgo rising, so that makes that planet even more important. And the part of fortune's conjunct it, so that's kind of saying that you by speaking your true emotional truth while having those boundaries and finding that tribe of people and having these like real, like, like life goals like that take a whole lifetime to achieve, right? um Often in groups, that can be it for you. Like that's you at your greatest joy, finding that family away, that might be not your like blood family. So yeah. And I think another great thing about Jupiter in the 12th house, especially in Leo, I love Jupiter Leo. They're so like fun loving, generous, um, just super like enthusiastic in their like approach of how they're trying to find wisdom, and they can be a little bit a little bit much sometimes, but I love it. I'm Leo over here, so I don't give a fuck. Um, just in the sense of like it's in the 12th house, it's gonna be dimmed a little bit, but um also they love children. Oh my God, I've seen this so much. Like Leo, Jupiter love children and they love fun. And it's in the 12th, so you have these gifts, these esoteric gifts, but you seek that spiritual meaning deep within yourself, right? And it's so amazing. I have this too, right? And I'm a Sagittarius, so it's different, right? But like it's like you're able to like in like the most despairing moments in life, you're able to dig deep into that well of optimism and find the meaning for it. But you still have to feel it if it's difficult, you know? Okay, what were we not talking about? Okay. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, just the sun unaspected, it's just like it can just create like a larger than life personality. There can be like someone who just marches to a different drum beat, really. A strong emphasis on self-expression, leadership, but you have to watch out for like kind of being like too egocentric. But like I said, like like I think that that's good for you because of the past life stuff. And you're Gemini, so you're mutable. You go with the flow, and you're mutable, but then your moon's fixed. So there's this nice ability to kind of like go with the flow in life and then come back to yourself. Beautiful. I love your chart. Um, Okay, do you know we talked about like the ideal mate, like the consistency and stability that they can provide, like they take relationships seriously, but they also are, they want to adventure and experience and learn about different cultures and open up themselves philosophically, all that. Vesta in the eighth could make you someone in Aries, could make you someone who, you enjoys working in like a kind of spiritual slash like metaphysical, like really, really um like anything like metaphysical, you can really unearth, like especially with your Mercury, like really like committed to discovering like the mysteries of life, right? Um and then you might want to, there's energy for teaching also in this chart, right? So, but you will not like, even though you're Gemini, so you're able to do it, but you like in terms of a deep friendship, like you'll want someone who isn't superficial, who can go deep, right? Um, and then Vesta in Aries is really good because it makes you very entrepreneurial, very self-reliant in your own work, and very self-motivated. That's what you want if you're working for yourself. Um, so yeah, committed to independence, personal success. So it's good for you to have that placement. And then you have Ceres there too. Nice. So Ceres in the eighth in Aries. Okay. Ceres is like your second moon, but not as important. Um, Ceres in Aries, they're good at giving independence to others, and they feel nurtured when they receive that too. Now, as a Taurus moon, you're gonna like to be cuddled and all that stuff. But like I said, this is your karma. So the you believe that most people with this, they believe that the best way to um care for others is to really let them kind of be themselves, and you'll definitely feel like you'll suffer because you'll feel like stuck in your south node if you feel caged in or dominated in any kind of way, a relationship. friendship, whatever. In eighth house, this just goes to like how this nourishment you feel when you get deep into like these intense emotions, but also this deep exploration of the esoteric metaphysics, right? It could also be like a lot of people with serious eighth house, they can be people who like care for dying people. And it can be very good for like giving comfort in sexual experiences, right? Serious eighth house. We're really wanting to please in that way. Okay, where is Palace? Palace. Ooh la la, look at you. Palace is in Pisces. That is the third eye. Palace asteroid. So that gives a very like just open third eye, meditative mind, able to merge your mind with all that there is, the universe. Really wanting to heal the world through your words. Once again, another big indication of artistic expression potential. And in the seventh house, I mentioned like the therapy thing, or like being able to like really be good at like seeing how kind of people operate. So yeah, you have lots of wisdom on how people, relate to each other, really good for counseling. But it can create difficulty sharing feelings with different partners, which would have gotten easier after Saturn return. Vertex 6, there you have something. Where'd my camera go? How long has it been going? God damn it. Why did my camera, did it just stop? I hope it just stopped. I hope it wasn't just like nothing for a while. Either way, whatever. I've been on fire. Vertex 6 in Aquarius, basically like your doorway to higher awareness is through your contribution to humanity. You really want to give, but not give too much to where it's like it's hurting you, right? And it trines your Venus, so it's like it totally connects to your work, to your daily life, to your career. So that's nice. Yeah. Okay. Let's see stars. Stars, 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 asteroids, asteroids, asteroids. I already saw the biggest one, Aldebaran. And Regulus, you have your black moon below close to it, but black moon below will not count with Regulus because it's not a planet. Okay, ascendant, what we got here? Anything? Is that Benevola? No. Mm. So you have Zosma, an angel closest to your ascendant. Angel, like it literally, I don't even have to explain what it is. It is what it is. It gives a very angelic, external, like kind of like energy to you. And Zosma is like one of these an ancient stars about truth seeking. So there you go. Adds a little flavor to that Virgo rising, doesn't it? What's this? Mm-hmm. Antares on the IC, but like, IC is not important as the MC, and yeah, I'm not really gonna go there. Um, okay, nothing there. So I've already talked about a lot of the big ones. I'm just staring at my computer to see what's going on here. There's so many crunched together. Oh my God. Holy shit, there's so many. I'll show you. If you're just staring at my eyes. This is what I'm trying to see. So Ooh. Okay, that's not good. Okay. So Algol is on your Mars. That's fucking a really rough one. We'll talk about that in a sec. Uh, Midheaven. Of course, you had Venus there. And that's it. So that's perfect. Um, and then on your Sun, you have Betelgeuse. And on your Jupiter, yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about these and let's end things here. I really want to give you the best reading possible. I think I have. I know I have. This has been magic. See, I just need like a break sometimes, even though this one was not my choice, but um yeah, so Algol is like very accident prone, and with Mars and Algol, there can be severe injuries. Um, where's Mars? Or not Mars. Yeah, so the thing about Algol and Mars is that like it creates murders. But like then if you're like, okay, well, so many people have their Mars at that degree, there's no way they're all murderers. Of course not. It's Medusa's head, right? So it just makes it so you have to really, really like ground yourself and don't be afraid of it. Um, like keywords associated with it are like, just like playing God. Um, it can create monsters. Very destructive, but also very regenerative, right? So it's about like the more you can dive into your spirituality, into your pain, like it can make someone want to dominate. But it can also make someone ultra creative and mind over matter, right? So the more speaking for the underdog, for example, like really like kind of getting into one's demons, um, that is where it's all about. But also it is prominent among artists. How many fucking times have I said this? One of my records. Um, especially people who work in the mass media. Um, Also there's a connection with like snakes, venom, all that stuff. Um, and it's someone who is not afraid to fucking say the shit that everyone else is afraid to say. So yeah, it's kind of like they destroy or they create. Um, so there is that kind of death rebirth transformation is very scorpionic. Um, so when I see it in a client, I don't think like, okay, they're fucked. I think, you know, um, like they probably went through some tough shit, but yeah. Let's see 1 second. Yeah, so it's a really tough one. You have to be really careful. Don't take big risks. there can be lots of like conflicts with violence, there could be like abuse, family member abuse, different like assault, that kind of stuff. But by now, you're past that. It's about getting rid of the resentments too. But like then, I'm looking at this forum, hello, I have this conjunction, blah blah blah. I'm not violent. I am very close to my family, but I did just lose my father in a tragic accident, so you're supposed to blah blah. So you see how like the more spiritual people, I feel like it's harder in a man's chart, especially a man who's like non-spiritual. That's my intuitive grab on it. But someone who's really doing their thing, especially with Aldebaran, you're good. Um, mhm, okay. So what was the other one I said? Oh yeah, then you have asteroid Lilith conjunct Jupiter, so that just makes you like a woman not to be fucked with in this man's world. Like you will stand up for your shit. You will stand up for yourself. Um, Sun was with Beetlejuice, but then also Nessus was with Mercury. They're really long reading. I'm trying to keep them closer to an hour 20, an hour 15, but for you, you waited so long that um, you deserve it, you deserve it, you deserve it. So Nessus, uh, Mercury, that can kind of relate to like verbal abuse. Um, that's the way I can put it. Um, yeah, so it's like it can create someone who is deeply abusive with their own words, or on the receiving end, or on the giving end. So maybe as a child they received lots of verbal abuse, and then they get dished out as an adult until they reach a certain evolutionary point. Like deeply wounding words, that kind of like psychological abuse. And so yeah, that goes with the themes we said. Beetlejuice, um, that is a more fortunate star. Um, it's another one of these wealth stars, and um, with the sun, it gives lots of interest in the occult and mystical kind of subjects, and yeah, just like success, like kind of like worldly success. So, anyways, anywho, that is about it. So let me know about the like so you wait a long time for this one, for the follow up slash current astrology slash follow up, and then if you want to add the current astrology slash spiritual alignment, it's usually 380, but I would do it for 250 for you. So let me know if you want to do that, and we'll schedule time in the coming weeks. Not like a long wait like this, because it's like a live Zoom thing. I record it, but like I don't post it anywhere. I just send it to you. It's a private YouTube video, and yeah, it'll be a very line. You'll know everything coming over the next like year plus, and it just works perfectly with this reading. And pretty much everyone, unless there's like a financial constraint or they're like an astrologer or whatever, they go with it. But last thing I'll say is that to add to everything, like the fact that Venus squares your nodes is just furthering this idea that there's lots of past life. You're gonna be tested, and you probably have been tested a lot in this lifetime when it comes to your relationships, your romantic relationships, and that there's different karmic debts um, that you have to so had to have paid um, to, I guess, you know, and with all the stuff I talked about, right, to get to where, to get to that good place. So anyways, that's it. Thank you so much. I hope it's a 100-minute reading made up for the time it took. Although I yeah, I think I moved you up because I forget. Actually, I don't even know. Maybe not. But anyways, thank you so much. Ciao, ciao, ciao. Bye, bye, bye.